Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to call up my amendment at the desk, Vitter Amendment number 3896.
Is there objection to setting aside the pending amendment?
Is there objection to set aside the pending amendment to bring up the amendment of Senator Vitter? Senator from North Dakota.
Mr. President, I've not had a chance to visit with the Senator from Louisiana. Let me object to the moment I'd like to visit with him.
Objection is heard.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President, I ask for a quorum call.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander.
Mr. President.
It's not the only.
Senator from Louisiana.
Mr. President, I again ask unanimous consent to call off the quorum call.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, I again ask unanimous consent to call up for consideration amendment number 3896.
Is there objection to set aside the pending amendment? Without objection. Clerk will report.
Senator from Louisiana, Mr. Vitter, proposes an amendment number 3896.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to waive reading of the whole.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I bring before the full Senate an important amendment with regard to abortion and the pro-life cause, and it's a very appropriate day that we talk about this and debate this, because as we speak, tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of people, particularly young people from all around the country, are marching here in Washington, in the Mall, on the Supreme Court, in a positive, vibrant march for life. In calling up this amendment, Mr. President, I also want to thank all of my original amendment co-sponsors, Senators Allard, Brownback, Thune, and Inhofe. Mr. President, this amendment is very simple. This amendment codifies, solidifies the Hyde Amendment policy in this important Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. So it establishes, reasserts the policy of the Hyde Amendment with regard to the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act and puts that Hyde Amendment language in the authorization language for this important part of federal law. Mr. President, let me explain why it's necessary. For many years, the Hyde Amendment has been honored, including in this federal program, but in a very roundabout and precarious way. For many years, this program and this authorization has included language that says this program will be governed by whatever abortion language is contained in the current Health and Human Services Appropriations Bill. And for those years, Congress has included Hyde Amendment language in that appropriations bill to which this program points. Well, that has worked sort of in accomplishing having the Hyde Amendment in federal law with regard to Indian health care, but it puts it in a tenuous and precarious posture. It puts it up for debate and possible change of policy every year, every time we debate a new Health and Human Services Appropriations Bill. And therefore, it doesn't make the policy very solid, very secure, very clear. My amendment is very simple. It would simply place that Hyde Amendment language directly in the Indian healthcare language and say no federal funds in this program will be used to perform abortions except in the rare exceptions delineated in the original Hyde Amendment. Mr. President, I think this is very appropriate. Why should we go this in such a roundabout and tenuous and precarious way? I think we should place that clear policy, which has been accepted over many years since the original Hyde Amendment debate, directly in the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act, and not have it sort of get there maybe every year through such a tortuous and tenuous and precarious route. And so, Mr. President, it's very simple. On this day where tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of Americans, particularly young people, and that's so heartening, are marching on Washington in a positive march for life, will we clearly reaffirm that Hyde Amendment language in the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act? I suggest all of us should do that. I suggest that would be a positive statement for life, for positive values for the future. And voting for my amendment will accomplish just that. Mr. President, I've talked to the chair of the committee, and he has indicated that a vote will be forthcoming further on in the debate for this bill. So I welcome that. I welcome everyone on both sides of the aisle to join together around this consensus amendment to make a positive statement for life, to reaffirm what has been federal policy for several years, the Hyde Amendment, and to move forward, hopefully together in a positive spirit, making that positive statement for life. Mr. President, in closing, I would also point out that this is a very important issue and a very important amendment, a very important vote to millions of people around the country who care deeply about life. And because of that, this will be a vote focused on and graded by several key national groups, specifically the National Right to Life Committee, Concerned Women of America, and the Family Research Council. Mr. President, I have letters from all three of these groups making clear their strong support of this Vitter Amendment, and also making clear that this vote on this amendment will be graded in their activity monitoring the Congress. And I ask unanimous consent to have these three important letters included in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, Madam President, in closing, I welcome all of our colleagues to support this common sense, pro-life, positive amendment. I look forward to any further debate on this, to answering any questions that might arise, and to an important vote before we conclude consideration on this bill. With that, I yield the floor.
Point of order, the quorum is not present.